Welcome to Dance to Heal. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how dance and movement can bring healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that movement was vital to my recovery. I created Dance to Heal Wellness and also authored the best-selling book, Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new techniques to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. As a survivor of human trafficking, Amanda Blackwood is now an accomplished artist, author, public speaker, podcast host, and trauma recovery mentor. Amanda shares her story on international summits, radio stations, through over a dozen books and 2 podcasts in order to provide insights into healing from trauma. So without further ado, Amanda, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I'm so happy to be with you today.
Me too. So listen, audience, Amanda, I already feel is going to be a lifelong friend. She doesn't know it until I just said it. And here's the thing, though. I really would love for her to just tackle some myths. What are some popular myths about this very taboo topic of human trafficking?
A lot of people believe that what human trafficking looks like is kids, teenagers that are being snatched off the streets by total strangers and then forced into prostitution. So right away, this is wrong. It does happen, but it's incredibly rare all the way around. So you want to go to a reputable source to look up the definition of human trafficking. You don't want to Google it. You don't want to look it up in Wikipedia. These are fallible resources. Go somewhere like the Department of Homeland Security. They specifically define human trafficking as the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain commercial sex acts or labor from another person. However, if that person is under the age of 18, you can negate the entire first part of that definition, force, fraud, and coercion. It doesn't matter if they're under 18 and somebody is receiving commercial sex acts or labor from them. It is illegal, period.
Bingo right there.
Yeah. And a big, huge myth is the whole kidnapping scenario. A lot of people think that human trafficking looks like how it does in the movie Taken. I get this a lot. Oh, I saw the movie Taken. What can I do to help? Well, number one, stop watching the movie Taken if you actually want to help. So the kidnapping scenarios do happen, but they're only 1% to 2% of all victims. The majority of people that are trafficked by people they already know and trust and who have a sense of authority over their lives. Usually people like parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, friends in school, boyfriends and girlfriends. We also have this idea that it only happens to people who are under the age of 18. And again, if you look at that definition, the first definition doesn't apply to anybody under 18, but this is the primary definition. It's because only 1/4 of all victims are under the age of 18. Most are adults. There's so many myths about trafficking. So when we look at that definition again, we have to recognize that even though our brains say that trafficking is the same thing as being in traffic, it's not. There's no mention of transportation in that definition. You can be trafficked from your own home, from your own bedroom, from a friend's house. You don't have to go anywhere to be trafficked. You do not have to cross international borders to be trafficked or even state lines. Human smuggling and human trafficking are both major issues, but they are separate issues, even though they overlap significantly. And commercial sex acts does not mention money. So prostitution does not equal human trafficking, though 90 to 95% of all prostitutes are being trafficked. But human trafficking doesn't always look like prostitution. In fact, it's a very small percentage. 14% of human trafficking here in the United States is sex trafficking. We talk about sex trafficking because that's the easiest to sensationalize. We've heard it for years. Sex sells. Absolutely, it does. It's called supply and demand. But the majority of trafficking, 76% about, here in the US is labor trafficking, forced servitude. And this can include wage theft. We have a lot of that right here in the state of Colorado. People want to say that this only happens along the borders. This is everywhere. This is every city in every country across the world. There is some form of human trafficking.
Oh, audience, just take a moment with me. If you're on the YouTube video, you've been seeing me making unbelievable faces if my editing team allowed that to show. Because I wanted to be honest, right, about the reaction. This is why people are like, why are you having this conversation? And I'm like, because it needs to be had and has many platforms as possible. These stats are frighteningly unknown. That's why we need to shine lights on it, right? Because even things similar to children undergoing horribly traumatic experiences with family members, we don't talk enough about. And we have to shine the light. It's not just someone being, somebody. It's like weird, unexplainable behaviors that we try and mainstream and normify, and it's not. So right. For someone who is a survivor of this type of trauma, how long does it take before they can have a normal life?
That was exactly my question in 2018 when I went to my first ever anti-trafficking conference. I was sitting in the front row. I was all about going and saving the children because, that famous hashtag save the children.
Yep.
And it's not about the kids. It's about humanity. And when I sat there and I watched this panel of 5 speakers and I started to understand that what I had been through actually had a name. It wasn't just domestic violence. It wasn't just torture. It wasn't just abuse. It had a name. Things started clicking in my brain, and that was absolutely my question. And they opened up the floor to questions. I held my hand up. They brought over the microphone. And that's what was supposed to come out of my mouth. And what came out instead was, I'm a survivor. And it was the first time I'd ever said it. It was in February of 2018. And then I said, how long does it take for somebody to have a normal life after going through this? And the reason I asked was because I'd been out for many years and I was still trying to figure it out myself. And the panel of speakers sat there completely stunned for a moment. And finally, one at a time, they started to try and figure out what the answer was. The collective answer is that it is different for every single person. But understand that less than 2% of all victims of human trafficking get out with their lives. If you're one of the people that's been blessed and lucky enough to get out with your life, work hard because you've got a story to tell.
Oh, let's go further with that. What does that mean when you say you've got a story to tell?
Because of the misconceptions of human trafficking, it's an uphill climb. It is a battle every single day. I am frequently told that my story isn't actually a story of human trafficking, but instead I made bad decisions. I trusted the wrong people because it doesn't look like how it's portrayed in the media. It's not what the news is talking about. It's not what the movies are portraying. So I'm the one that has to be out of line. Mm-hmm. The reason that people are saying this or feeling this or wanting to go down that road, and the reason that these true stories aren't coming out is because of the 2% who survive, less than 1% are willing to talk about it. The more voices that we have raised up, the more believable our stories become collectively, and the more healing happens as we take back control of that story rather than allowing that story to control us.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's part of the reason why I wrote a book and published it, and why you have how many books, Amanda?
13 right now.
Darn straight. I can't remember if I'm allowed to swear. They might beat me up. So I'm just going to say darn straight, and you're not even done. You're not even close to being done, are you?
Not at all. I have been writing on average 2 books a year since 2018. And I still have a lot to go. I have the titles written for over 600 books that I hope to write in my lifetime so far.
Ah, you gave me chills. You gave me chills. So, audience, Amanda and I were chit-chatting before about how I love her microphone and I have a toner microphone and how you do the audio, right, Amanda, for all your books,
Yeah.
and how you help survivors have an opportunity to tell their story. How do they do that with you, Amanda?
So I started my own publishing company after a deal fell through in 2015. I was planning on getting one of my very first books published through Penguin Publishing, which is a huge deal.
Yes.
And the person that was the go-between did me dirty. It was really bad, and it broke my heart. I saw this was the end of my opportunities to ever see anything get published. This was it. I had burned a bridge. So I started doing a little bit of research, and I found the processes for doing self-publishing. And I started researching a bit more what do publishing companies do and what's the difference here and what can I do. Eventually, I started my own publishing company. And now I help other survivors of human trafficking to publish their stories once they're ready also. I have an editor on my staff. I have a book design cover creator. I do a lot of the design work myself. I'm really hands-on with this. But just recently, a lady who owns her own 501c3 charity called Beautiful Feet Wellness just published her first book through me. And it was a book of poetry on her survivalship as a survivor of human trafficking. I was so proud of her.
Yeah, I'm doing the waving hands on my face to dry my tears thing right now, y'all, because yeah, it's important to exercise our voices when you're a survivor. That's it. Hands down. There's gotta just be a hashtag. Exercise your voice. That's part of healing. Are there other ways, Amanda, that you have found to be helpful?
Absolutely. There are so many ways. One of them is to be a public speaker. So I'm now reaching out to a wider audience and teaching people about trauma and about what that means and how it changes your brain. Trauma changes your brain. You change your life.
Bingo.
And then I also have several podcasts that focus on trauma and trauma recovery. I have one that is all about elevating the voices of other trauma survivors who have written about their own recoveries. I have one that I co-host with a friend of mine from Australia. See, that's a lovely accent to talk to all the time. And that is all about breaking down the different trauma reactions, where they come from, what the long-term consequences are of not dealing with them, and how to retrain your brain so you stop reinforcing bad behavior. So I've got all of that. I also have a trauma recovery mentorship where I work one-on-one with people. I do group settings. I do the planned modules where you can go at your own pace. There's so many ways that you can work with people because there is no one size fits all answer for trauma.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I want to bring up Amanda's website. It's growthfromdarkness.com, right? So is this where they can get in touch with you, Amanda? Growthfromdarkness.com?
Yes, there's a contact form on that webpage. There's also my email address listed. There's all my social media stuff on there. I'm really easy to find, especially if you go on Facebook. I'd probably write more than 2 books a year if I wasn't on Facebook so much. But yeah, there's all of my contact information is there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Because while our traumas may not be as extreme as what Amanda and her clients survived from, there is an aspect to the brain that perceives trauma has true pain in ourselves. So I want you to hear, audience, that, I first talked about the trauma of my breast cancer treatment and being dehumanized as a patient during chemotherapy and surgery and radiation. There's also an aspect that as I trace back in my recovery to my childhood that led me to dare I say, getting breast cancer when there's no history of it in my family. I had a lot of unresolved trauma from my childhood that even now I'm still unraveling as I have just turned 55. So the aspect of the trauma recovery, there has to be revisited for a lot of us, because we lose sight and track of who we were when we were first brought into this earth. And there's got to be return to that pureness of who we were when we first came, right? I think for me, I hold on to this knowledge that the things we went through are helping us fulfill our journeys and our purpose in this lifetime. You got to heal yourself first, right, Amanda? Because part of what you do, you help people heal. And at the same time, I think Amanda and I are effective now for helping people because we've healed ourselves. We're coming from a healed place versus from a wounded place.
Absolutely. After everything that I'd been through, I would have been perfectly happy being a hermit for the rest of my life. So instead, I became a flight attendant. I did that for 2 years, 3 months, 28 days, not that I was counting. And I loved every second of it. But one of the biggest things that I learned while there is something that's helped me throughout everything I've done since then. When that oxygen mask drops, if you can't breathe, you can't do anything. So when they tell you to secure your own mask before you can secure the mask of your child or anybody else around you, they're going to be fine for the few seconds it takes for you to put the mask on. If you wait to put your mask on until after you've helped somebody else, you're going to die of hypoxia. Take the time to take care of you first, then reach out to everyone else around you.
Tell it, Amanda. I hope you heard this from a flight attendant who is in a situation where she lives this life or death adage that most of us make fun of, right? A lot of times we make fun of it. Even now, after the panini people are like, you got to take your actual mask off before you put on the oxygen mask. And it's become a joke in some meme circles. It actually is a truth. So we're going to advise you, go to growthfromdarkness.com. If that gives you anxiety, go to my free class at danceandheal.com. You got cardio dance, you got some myofascial release stuff. It's all a gift. You take it at your own time, and then look up Growth from Darkness, right? Because sometimes confronting a truth about something that we might have swept under the rug a little bit, right? And that's true. I mean, I ignored a lot of my childhood trauma. I looked at it all with rose-colored lenses, because how could I confront, right, that my parents more or less abandoned me for 8 months with negligent grandparents for when I was 4.
Wow.
Right. And people would be there. People would say, oh, well, you were loved, though. They left you with grandparents. Yeah, but he beat his wife in front of me. And who knows about some assault that happened when I was a baby? It's like, it's all perspective. Right. And so some of us, it's very scary to even look at ourselves without that rose-colored lens. I have permission to speak about it. It's like my husband too. He has some things he used to just talk about how lucky he was, and we've been unburring a lot of things. So again, to reiterate, you're going to go to danceandheal.com, get your movement class from me. Be happy like Amanda just did an awesome workout. I'm going to do some bungee jumping in my garage later. And then check out her growthfromdarkness.com website. What are some final words for the audience before we let you go, Amanda?
Let go of not just the myths, but the misconceptions. And that includes the misconceptions of each and every one of us. We've grown up our entire lives hearing about stranger danger when the dangerous people are the people we already know. And we've also grown up our entire lives hearing, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. There's even songs titled this, but it's a lie. The original phrase was coined by Friedrich Nietzsche in the 1800s, not too long before he died in an insane asylum. When you follow somebody like that, right? Reframe this. What doesn't kill you gives you trauma, but the strength comes from inside. The strength has always been yours. And stop waiting around for that apology from the person who hurt you. We have no business leaving our need and our ability to move forward with our lives back in the hands of the person who made us need to do that in the first place.
Oh, you give me chills, Amanda. Oh, such gems. The power is in you, audience. All right. And once you take that step, just one baby step towards healing, you will be unstoppable in returning back to the person you came as, that pure soul. All right, folks, we got to go. I actually have gone over time. We're going to have Amanda back. All right, Amanda, you come back. All right.
I love that.
Okay. All right, audience. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening to Dance to Heal with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of recovery through movement and learn more ways that you can move your body. To work with me and continue your journey, visit OutsideInRecovery.com. Are you ready to move?